It looks like it's 5 years and 3 months ago. Because that's when I commented. He made a video of me playing. He reviewed a video of me playing 100L, and that was probably. I think that's still the greatest poker moment I've ever had. Yeah, for sure. I remember it was like I was still living at home. We had a cleaning lady then, and she would come every Wednesday morning. So what I would do, my parents would be away, so I would wake up early and then go sleep in my parents' bed because they were at work, and she would start cleaning upstairs. So I just went there and I set my alarm, and then I woke up and I kept refreshing the page, and all of a sudden I saw the review had been uploaded, and I wasn't sure because the guys were saying, yeah, it might be Phil, but it's probably going to be some other guys, which would have been cool, but then I saw it, and then it turned out to be Phil reviewing my video, and I was just I was just starting out playing 100L. I was super excited, of course, that the great Phil Galfond is reviewing my video. Anyway, so yeah, I guess I'll just play the video, and then I'll basically comment on like how the game has changed in general. It's kind of like a fun throwback Thursday, I guess. Yeah, should be fun, right? Did you ever bang the cleaning lady? No, BBI sick. That did not happen. I guess BBI sick failed his social media challenge, or his challenge is over. He told me that he's not gonna use any social media for a week. Does Twitch count as social media? I guess it does. Yeah, I guess it does. All right, so let's just play and see what Phil says.
I'm going to be reviewing some footage from one of our top users on RunItOnce, Chael Sonnen. And I have, along with the footage that he was kind enough to give us, a little intro, which I think is relevant because I'm going to kind of treat this as if I am speaking more directly to him, so that you guys can get, I guess, a look at how I would be giving, him personal advice rather than everybody else, or kind of the advice to the masses.
So of course, as I was listening to this, I was giggling. It was really fun. I probably watched this video like 6 times. So yeah, I'm replaying it, but I actually know what he's gonna say. So that's either being a fanboy or being creepy. Well, probably both, right?
So it's pretty quick. It says, "Dear Rio Coach, thank you so much for reviewing this footage. You're welcome. A little background: I started at Sit and Goes. I did too, by the way, and shifted to mid-stakes cash games for a while until I tilted off my roll. Started over again low and kept grinding my way up until I tilted it off again. Started playing online again a little while ago, looking to improve my game and go pro eventually, but not now. My goal is to become more professional in my approach, so not just opening a table, but using a HUD, getting poker software, tracking leaks, etc. To help out, I noted some timestamps so you can find the most interesting hands more easily. Then he goes on to list a handful of, or more than a couple handfuls of interesting hands and their timestamps. And then he goes into his color coding for his notes, and maybe as we get involved in a hand, I'll
So you basically say how fishy I was. As you see, I had the Dutch setup on PokerStars. I didn't even have the English one. I didn't have a HUD. As Phil said, like what I told him, like I was just tilting off my roll, just not really being professional at all. But so of course, that's something I had to learn, like anybody. Of course, like I don't expect to be great in the first place. What I think is important is that when I say like I watched this video 10 times, I couldn't wait. I said 6 times. I couldn't believe it was happening. I tried to learn from it. Like I was so happy about it. Like I wrote this whole letter to him, which I don't think anybody's ever done that. The point is like I was really happy to receive this review, and that type of thing really motivates you. So you guys should try to find. Of course, like this is just a random one-off thing, but you guys should try to find motivation like that to really push you, because at the time I was playing 100L, so I was not playing micro stakes, but definitely obviously not high stakes. So, and I was just like, my whole life at that time was just based on getting better. And if you guys want to be very good at poker, that's how you got to be. I think I pushed it a bit too far, to be honest, but you have to be quite obsessed. It means that if let's say you're playing 100L, you're trying to improve, you should be playing half the day. You should be studying. You should be watching videos. You should be thinking about your mindset. You should be counting your bankroll. You should be looking at different sites to play on. You should really like, you should try to go to bed always and have 8 hours of sleep and have good nutrition and work out and like work on every single little thing to make your performance as good as it can be. If you play low stakes and you're already slacking off playing 20k hands a month, that's not how you're going to get to high stakes. You have to be crazy about it. This is all you have to do. This is all you want to do. Otherwise, you won't get there. And the thing is, that's not a very popular answer because people want things easily, but that's not how it works, you know? If you want to lose weight, you have to eat well every day, and you have to work out, you know, almost every day, and sleep properly and whatever. If you want to be good at something, you have to practice it every single day. So, you know, I know people kind of want to just press a button and be good at something, but it's that's not how it works. So at least you know, even though I was fishy in that way, which is fine because I was at the start of a learning process, at least something I'm happy about is that I was really trying to improve. That is super important. So it annoys me a bit when I see guys who are very talented who just play no volume, you know? Or let's say you get coached by me and you show up half an hour late. As in, if you play 100L and somebody plays high stakes is coaching you, you should have a whole page prepared full of questions and sub-questions, and you should be bothering that person with hands the whole time. And you should be playing, and you should be watching him play and other people play. Like, that should be everything you do. And if it's not, then you're doing something wrong. Unless, of course, you're saying, okay, I just want to play at 100L for a few years and then do something else. That's fine. Like, not everybody has to be ambitious enough to get to higher stakes or have, like, a really high win rate or whatever. That's fine. But I think that's kind of boring, right? I think everyone who's watching the stream trying to improve really wants to get to bigger stakes. They want to have a higher win rate. They want to crush, you know? I don't think anybody's like, yeah, I want to make 3 BBs per 100 and then I'm good. Because if you'd have that attitude, most likely you're not going to make it very far. So I know that seems like a bit of a rant, but it's so important. This is just as important as me saying on that flop you do that and that's how you adjust, etc. But this is extremely important. Okay, let's look at what people have been saying. I'm not going to do the whole intro because it's maybe a bit tedious. What's up, KZX? I guess that one guy does not owe anybody 100k for you missing the stream. We know you're never going to miss it. Giraffe Gang at the table. Yeah, I think he's now a fairly well-known tournament player, right? Bang, bang. Oh, actually, I don't think this session I'm going to be doing many bang bangs because, I mean, how am I going to bang bang Phil Galfond? Like, you know, I mean, there's nothing to bang bang about. But in case I do have a bang bang, I'm going to do one of these.
Bang bang!
That's my Russian bang bang. So I think you guys heard that. What if you play 20k hands a month with a full-time job? Not enough. Not enough, David. I had a full-time job as well, and I was playing over 100k hands. I'm not saying, as I said, like, I think I pushed it too far. I'm not saying that it's a challenge as to who can play the most hands, you know, and then just lose all your hair 2 years later. I'm not saying you should do that, but yeah, you should be obsessed with getting better. MMA Skype chats span from this day on. Well, I'd rather have people be overly enthusiastic, and then I'm like, okay, we can't talk 6 hours a day, than people who never message me. Like, it's okay to message me. That's why I'm the coach, and that's why we're coaches. Of course, it has to be within reason, because I also have to sleep, and I also have other things to do, but you should be excited. Or not just me. If you are part of the BluffTheSpot program, or even if you're not, if you play a certain stake, you have to find people who are roughly your level, whose games you like, and you should be adding them on Skype. If you're a part of BluffTheSpot, you should be looking at the library, and you should be watching videos when you're not getting coached. Or, you know, reading posts to see interesting answers from people who you think are good. You should be using all these resources to improve your game. For instance, when I was still using RunItOnce every single day I would watch a video, a full video. I would like it. I would not force myself. I would like to watch a video. It was fun. It was fun to see it, and it was fun to improve. And even if it's not, maybe that's not your thing. At the time, it was my thing. You know, then you just do have to force yourself to do it. Is there such a thing as talent? Well, I mean, I think so to a certain extent, but a lot of it, I think talent is also just the ability to teach yourself something properly. So maybe you wouldn't learn that much faster than somebody if you had exactly the same learning path, but I think that's one of my strengths, as in I think that if I focus on something, I can get extremely good at anything almost. Why? Not because I have an IQ of 200, because I don't. Not because I have 20-inch biceps, because I don't. Okay? But I break that things down into, like, I look at what I'm good at and what I'm not, and I try to see how I can improve those things. Like in a very rational manner, so without ego, whatever. I think that is very important. So you can do that, like, of course, with something like sports, it's harder. There's guys, there's just guys who can jump higher than other guys. Like I know some guys from my childhood who, I remember a guy in my childhood who, he was kind of chubby. He was not really fat, but he would always get picked last. He was not like he was never like a sports star. And then he really improved. Like he looks much better. Like he was much stronger and fitter and everything. But he was still really slow and like clumsy and whatever. He was just not a good athlete, even though he looked good. So yeah, sure, that you will not get back. Not there to a certain extent. There is some talent involved, but with hard work, you can get very far still. There's top level people in every field who are not that talented, probably. All right. I'm glad you like it. Lewimster? Lewimster? I don't know. Sorry to disappoint. You can literally bang you can literally bang Phil. No, there's nothing to bang Phil about. Do you have recommended hours of moving pro, or moving up stakes, or should you play every day? I would not say recommended hours. Everybody's different. Some guys can just play all day, every day. Some people need more breaks, because of their age or their stage in poker, or like the way they like to improve. Like everybody's different. So I would not use that. But I mean, I don't think anybody listening at the moment should be playing fewer than 50k hands a month, assuming you're a professional, and assuming you're trying to get good. I mean, I play. When I'm back home for a month, I play probably 40k hands, but I play mostly 2k plus. So I really don't easily find tables. If you're just playing Zoom and adding some regular tables, 50k hands should be easy. I mean, not easy. You have to work hard for it, but I mean, this is what you do. This is what you sign up for. So you can't be lazy. That's the main problem people have. They're lazy. They want things. They want all the money, or they want all the glory, or they want all the girls, or they want all the gifts, or whatever they're in it for, but they don't want to work hard. It's very important. Have Mexican and I squash beefs. I don't really dislike Mexican much anymore. Like, he's not grimming people left and right anymore, so he's kind of like calmed down. So I mean, I've met Mexican a few times in real life. Like, he doesn't seem like a dick. Like a guy like Danmer is just a dick, as in. He does not annoy me, as in I don't think any person really annoys me in poker that I like know a little bit. But he just seems like a true asshole. Whereas Mexican, like as I said, like he was just chill, like fine, whatever. So, oh wait, since I said Denmar's an asshole, I have to go for
bang.
Yeah.
Bang.
Exactly. All right, let's see. So. I'll actually review the footage, since that's what we're there for. So you see here, that means quick fold, fast fold. I hadn't set it up in English at that point, because I did it in English because otherwise they don't send you hand histories, and I wanted to import them in my in the HUD I got after I watched this review.
Reference that about edit at those together. From this letter, we'll get through all of given that, and that in future videos we'll skip ahead to some of these as the footage. We probably want the footage will get all professionally, but I won't go too much.
Okay, so we started now. So basically, I'll let Phil talk, see what he recommends, and then I'll look at what I did, and then recommend, advise what I would do with what I know today. So of course, like. I'm going to do things that are bad. Phil's going to say things that are bad, but I don't think either one of us can be blamed because that was knowledge from 5 years ago. So I think that would be, if Phil says check back and don't see bet range on a board you can bet range, nobody is betting range on any board 5 years ago.
Into that. On the left table here, we have our first interesting spot where there's a raise and 2 callers. And we have ace jack in the small blind. I think that 3-betting here is best. It's the kind of hand that, and I'm glad to see that our hero is looking to 3-bet. It's not so much a value 3-bet or a bluff 3-bet. I guess, if anything, you consider it more of a bluff because you're not really looking to get action in this spot, given that the ranges you'll get action from are often doing very well against you and you'll be out of position. However, ace-jack offsuit is not a hand that plays very well out of position in a multi-way pot. Ace-jack suited, however, is. So ace-jack suited would be a much better candidate to just call here. But ace-jack offsuit offers, a couple of relevant blockers, the ace being the most relevant blocker, to the hands of your opponents are going to be 4-betting. And it's also just a great squeeze spot. And the squeeze play has kind of gone in and out of style as people have started to plan for it more.
All right, so Phil's recommends a squeeze. That is what I did. I think that is still going to be the best play. Phil made a great point saying like ace-jack offsuit plays very badly out of position, as in my hand is dominated. It's offsuit. I'm often going to have to call with gut shots on the flop with no backdoor flush draw, flush draws multi-way. Like it just doesn't play very well. But the blockers to their calling ranges are great. And I mean, for Murney, it's just very difficult to call here because he'll be out of position to 2 players. Wizzle will be out of position to 1 player, and he's already capped his range by not 3-betting, and then Nicky should really not have anything almost ever because, he didn't squeeze pre-flop. Of course, he can still have something, but it's unlikely. Also, it's a 3x, so I'm not getting a great price. So, yeah, I agree with Phil. Like, a hand like ace-4 suited plays much better, where I can more easily let go of my ace if there's a lot of action, and then I do have a nut suit, which helps very well multi-way. Yeah. Ace-jack suited, I do think, ace-jack suited becomes more of a value squeeze then.
For a while, it was one of the most profitable, basically the of squeezing all the time. That 2 callers shouldn't have a hand strong enough to get it in with you, and the initial raiser has to worry not only about you but about the callers behind him if he wants to call, and a little bit about them if he wants to 4-bet. But basically, if you get through him, you pick up the $10 in the pot with this squeeze, and it works very, very often.
Yeah. So Phil and current me agree on that. So nice hand to all 3 of us.
Here on the right table, we have pocket 9s in the big blind against a button min raise. This is a hand that I tend to call with. It is against certain opponents with certain dynamics strong enough to 3-bet to get in pre-flop. It's definitely well ahead of anybody's button opening range. However, it doesn't have, in my opinion, a ton of post-flop playability in 3-bet pots, because what ends up happening is you very often flop an underpair to at least 1 or 2 cards. And then your hand becomes kind of either, you can either turn it into a bluff, or what it really is a bluff catcher with very few outs. And I think that just, what ends up happening on flops is if you c-bet, you get them to fold all their worst hands and call or raise with all their better hands and their semi-bluffs, and it just puts you in a bad spot. I'd much rather call and play this hand, not build a pot until I like the flop a little bit. And, if you're up against somebody who 4-bets really light, and especially if somebody can 4-bet, I guess you need to be slightly deeper, but can 4-bet small pocket pairs to 6-bet jam, then this becomes a good hand to get in. But I think that's a dynamic that rarely exists in 6-handed cash games, at least. This guy's orange. That means solid, good, regular. So yeah, I would just go ahead and call here. I don't think that it's necessary to be raising this up, and it feels a little weak to be calling. But I would.
All right. So this is a spot where I do disagree with Phil. I agree with the fact that the hand is not easy to play, but I think that is just a reason to three bet other hands that play better in those spots, so we're covered and just like improve our game overall. But our hand just has an insane amount of equity against his range. Our hand probably has like 60% equity against his range almost, I would guess. If he's opening, back then like probably 50% was more standard. Nowadays that would already be considered loose. So yeah, I think we should just three bet here. Nines plus we should just always be three betting, even the lower pairs sometimes. But the lower you get, of course, the less you three bet. But back then I know my strategy was to three bet nines plus. So this was the worst pair in my calling range. I also nowadays would three bet bigger, but yeah. Nobody was three betting.
Really consider it, and he does raise, and that's I think what'll work out better for you in a single raise pot.
All right, so here next hand, so baby blue means big fish. Yeah, so let's see how I play this hand.
I'm just calling. So you don't really need to say like is this hand strong enough to raise, or is it weak enough that I can't call, so I need to raise as a semi bluff. I think just some hands play better as calls, and it doesn't matter how good or bad they are necessarily compared to your opponent's range. It's not the whole story. Poker's a lot in that way, like chess, where you need to think about the way that the game is going to play out after the fact, and it's not just about your immediate position or your immediate equity. And it's actually, there's more to think about than chess, because the decision tree...
Let's forward a little bit.
Actually interesting, both of these hands, you'd benefit from having a HUD, which is something that Shale talked about in this intro. I definitely think getting a HUD is extremely important if you're going to be taking your poker career more seriously. It's minimal in cost, and the information is very invaluable. So I'd like to know how often this player opens in general under the gun. I'd like to know whether he's a strong or weak player based on some of his stats. His fold to three bet stat would be pretty relevant here, because I think that in addition to calling, I think three betting is an option, and I think folding is an option as well. I think against like a reasonable good regular, this is probably just a fold. And then the other thing you'd want to know is how often the blinds squeeze if you do want to consider calling here and playing this pot in position. And that's actually the most important stat here on the left table when we're faced with the under the gun raise with aces next to act. Raising here looks very strong, but you should have some kind of raising range here, and the best hand you can possibly be dealt is a good hand to put in that category. I think a reason to call here, which I believe is what Shale does, and is certainly fine and good in certain instances. The main reason to call, though, is if you have some players behind you who are pretty active and likely to squeeze. Either one of these guys behind you is very likely to squeeze, or one of them that's loose and likely to call, and then a player in the blinds who can't resist the super squeeze. I think that you may find it's a little bit rare at 50 cent a dollar zoom, but I bet it's not that rare. But I guess it's not really worth me making assumptions about the player pool here. But that said, I think that three betting is probably best. You have three different blues listed.
All right, so a little bit long-winded. That's how Phil gets, which I do like, by the way. Anyway, so here I decided to flat with aces against a 3x open against somebody I call a huge fish. This is very bad. Of course, under the right circumstances, you can do almost anything, as Phil alluded to. But yeah, this is not good. When you're facing a big fish, what you want to do is build a pot with a good hand. I mean, big fish generally open raise too much. They don't fold enough to three bets. They just make big post flop mistakes. So you don't want to play this hand multi-way. You just want to build a pot heads up and build a big pot, and then just force mistakes, because his range will be too weak, or he'll do stupid shit basically. So yeah, this flat call is very, very bad. In theory, I mean, also, like, you don't really want to be flat calling, especially against 3x when there's short stackers behind, like the big blind who can re-squeeze. It's not a huge consideration, but yeah, we should just be we should just be three betting against the fish, and we should be three betting quite large. Somebody I categorize a big fish is unlikely to be folding. So yeah, we can get a bit of extra value. So, a big fish generally, he just has a hand. He likes his hand. He wants to play poker. He doesn't care about $100. So he doesn't care if you make it $9 or $10 or $11. He doesn't like, he's like, oh, $2 more. That's 4 Snickers. Like, who gives a fuck about 4 extra Snickers? He just wants to play his hand. But for you, it's great because now you've put in 2 more big blinds with a very strong hand. And then Jack 8, I do agree with Phil says, like, I know this guy was a short stacker back then. I think he might still play lower stakes. So if this guy's a pro short stacker, then you definitely should not be VPing your hand. But if this guy's a fish who's opening a lot, then I think flat calling or 3-betting both potentially make sense. Yeah. So as a standard, this would be a fold, though, because you're behind the out of positions range. Do you think to get to a new level after being able to beat 100 Zoom is to go deep in the theory understanding? How does one identify the max EV thing to study? That is difficult to answer, Elias, because, again, everybody has different leaks. Understanding the game more is definitely very important. So what you can do is stuff like, study with solvers, watch theoretical videos, or watch people who are very theoretically sound, like, for instance, Sauce. So yeah, it is important, but everybody has different weaknesses. So it's really difficult. Like, as a student, as Elias would know, that we look at your personal leaks. So we review your game both with stats and with footage and see, okay, this is where you're leaking. And then we basically break down those concepts and then give you theory along the way. So you don't just understand, like, okay, I should have called here instead of folded, but why? And at what point do you not call anymore? And when do you start calling a lot? And how do you change your sizings, etc., etc. So not just, not just giving you an answer, but teaching you how to get to that answer. A quote by KZX. I don't want to say something and then have you hold it against me for the rest of your life. Do you accept winning players who don't speak English very well but understand? Yes, we do. Also depends on which language you speak. I mean, we have coaches that speak other languages than, languages other than English. But yeah, the thing is, since you would be in our group chats and like on the forums and everything, like you would very quickly improve. So that's a little bonus, improving your English. What kind of exercises do you recommend regarding what, KZX? What do you think causes people to be lazy? That's, again, like, I'm not a psychologist. I mean, it's many things. I think where you're from is very important as well. Like, what you do see is that, the Northern Europeans tend to be lazy. They tend to be entitled little Nancy boys. Wait.
Bang, bang!
Whereas, you see guys like Forhaley and Katya. I mean, these guys are extremely rich, and they were playing, still Katya. Katya plays 8 hours a day, every single day. I mean, Katya has, I don't know how much he has, but Katya has at least $10 million in his bank account. He does not need to play poker ever again. He really does not. He's set for life. His family is set for life. His children are set for life. He does not need to play. But he probably comes from, like, a lower income household. Like, for him, this money matters more than for a Swedish kids whose parents all make $75K a year. So that type of thing does matter. Like, you see it so often. Like, the Latin grinder, like the Latins and the Eastern Europeans, those are the real grinders. And then the Northern Europeans, they're the ones who care more about the gaming experience because, as I said, they're spoiled. And then it's also just general mentality and, upbringing and whatever. It's so many things. I'm not a psychologist, so. But that's such a complicated formula, it's just a combination of many different things. But you do have to work hard. All right, still reading questions. What's up, Dennis? Always good to see you. I've heard you say that you play 2 million hands lifetime. I never said that, Alec. Your math would be correct, but I have played far more than 2 million hands lifetime. Is it a plus EV decision to pay for run once or not really anymore with solvers around? Yeah, I think it is for sure. I mean, I most of my improvement has come from run it once. For sure. I mean, okay, that was a few years ago, to be fair. I still watch videos sometimes. But yeah, they've helped me so much. Basically, Run It Once was like BluffTheSpot for me. Except that Run It Once is just a video library, whereas we do personalized coaching. But I would just watch videos. I would read people's posts and learn from that. I would post myself. I would post questions under videos and other people's hand histories. And I was really a part of the community. That's why I was one of the top members, and I got free membership. I've actually never paid Run It Once anything for membership. So yeah, I really used it to get better. So even before I started playing poker again, for 6 months straight, every single day I would watch a video and I would comment on people's hands without even playing, just to really improve my game. And you build up a community, you you start adding people on Skype, and like you talk to them a bit privately, and then you improve, like you get little bits and pieces of information. So, I think it's $10. It used to be $10. I don't know if it still is. For $10, you can get so much info. For 100, you can get even more. So, I by the way, I'm not being paid by Run It Once to say any of this. Like, a few years ago, like they asked me, do you want to do an interview about your story? I said yes, but we never really finished it. So I just want to get credit to him. Again, give them credit. Again, I'm not being paid to tell you any of this. Like we added a link for you to sign up on Run It Once. If you want, you can sign up. That's great. But as I said, like I'm not a Run It Once pro. I'm not a Run It Once ambassador or anything like that. But these guys are like, they've never seemed to have fucked anybody over. They've always produced good content. They're just reasonable, smart people. So yeah, I definitely appreciate what they've done for me, and probably also for others. I remember there was a story where there were two very active members. I think it was Zenfish and I forgot her name. Not Joanna. I think her name is Joanna. Yeah, whatever. Basically, they met on Run It Once and then they got married. That was kind of strange. Not strange. That was kind of cool actually. It was odd but cool. What's up, Cold Smile? I assume you're the OG Cold Smile. Please lower the bang bang volume. All right, I'll keep that in mind. It's still an experiment. I like the fact that it's a Russian bang bang. Although I did give the Russians credit before. It should be like a Swedish bang bang. Let's see. I think Phil hit the nail on the head with the ace jack off. Yeah. Obviously. How did he get 100L footage of you? I sent it to basically the guy that works for him. I sent it to to him, and then basically then, like, if you were an active member or something, they would contact some people like, hey, do you want to have some hands or footage or something reviewed? And since I was one of the top members, if I can contribute, that helps their site as well. So, that's kind of how they thanked me for, posting on their site. Is this Phil Galfond? funny troll monk. Yeah, it is Phil Galfond speaking, and yeah, it is. Vogelman still short stacking 5-6. I think that guy still plays. I think I've seen him before, Baccarin. I think you've seen him. So what volume are you looking at for NL10? Well, it depends if you're a professional or not, but I would say, again, minimum 50k hands a month. When you play NL10, if let's say you play 4 tables of Zoom, although I do think that Zoom, like PokerStar Zoom, is not the highest EV grind for an NL10 player, but if you play NL10 Zoom, 4 tables, you can just get 800 hands in. So if you were to play, let's say 3 hours, you get in 2,400 hands. Let's say 2,500 hands. So that's 75k a month. So, okay, let's say take a few days off, you play 65 or 70k hands a month. That is, definitely doable. What is your opinion on Doug Polk? Is he? I mean, Doug Polk like is a bit of a troll. Like he comes across as like a cool guy and an asshole at the same time. But that he knows that. Like that's his persona kind of. But yeah, I mean he's a world-class poker player who's made a lot of money playing poker, who's now gone into poker business. You know, he makes these troll-ish videos, but they're at the same time they're pretty good. So yeah, I have nothing against Doug. He was arguably the world's best no-limit player. So I mean, how can you disrespect that? Almost everybody agreed that it was him back then. KZX asks, what exercises do you recommend for a standard online poker pro that spends most of their time indoor? Are you talking about physical exercise? Or are you talking like mental exercise to get ready for poker? I would say, well, physical exercise, that just depends on you. I mean, going to the gym or yoga or fighting, whatever. So, but relieving stress is just very important either way. And then it's very important to work on your mental game. So I would mostly say setting goals is very important so you know what you're working towards and then actively working towards them. And then also, I mean, before the session, quickly thinking about like what you want to accomplish. So if let's say I know that I've been getting owned in a certain spot or a couple of spots, I'm going to write those down. I'm going to write down the improvements I've come up with, and then I'm going to try to actively apply them in game rather than just have it like in the back of my head. So proactively trying to improve your game, like breaking down your weaknesses, and you know, be willing to admit that you have weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses. You know, LeBron James and whatever, like LeBron James has weaknesses as well, and like, you know, Lewis Hamilton has weaknesses as well, and John Jones has weaknesses. Everybody has them, so you have to just identify them and try to fix them, and that usually opens up slightly different leaks, and then you fix those, and eventually those leaks become smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you get better and better. So yeah, basically break down your game, and where you find yourself weak, break down ways to get better when it's like, you know, when it comes to like poker leaks or life leaks or whatever. And then once you find a solution, actively work towards that solution. This whole sophisticated rant and Dennis is jerking off. Yeah, that also works, Dennis. All I do is watch Twitch streams every day, meanwhile knowing I have to put volume on poker because, of course, it's my only source of income. What do you recommend with this addiction? Well, at least start by watching poker streams so you learn like a little bit. But then also, I mean, again, like remind yourself why you're doing this. Like, if you're watching a lot of like random people play Dota, I mean, I don't find that fun, but I guess that's fun, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. So tell yourself like, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to make more money? You know, so I can get my kids through school, or so I can like buy, get on and have a nice vacation, or, you know, build up savings for later or whatever. So remind yourself why you're doing that. So when you're in the middle of a hand, you're not just like, oh, just grinding, but you're like, I'm grinding to do this. And then when you're about to tilt and spew it off because you're like, oh, fuck this guy, he just bluffed me 3 times, I know it, I'm going to bluff him with a hand I shouldn't be bluffing with, then you think, okay, I'm doing this for this person or for yourself or for this, you know, item or whatever. And then I think you can keep yourself under control more easily. Do you know anything about online tournaments and what a good volume for them would be hand-wise? No, Smurf. I don't. Who are my favorite Rio coaches? Parker Muir, James Hudson. I actually met James Hudson in a supermarket in Malta like last month. That was kind of random. Because I saw one of the guys that works for RunItOnce, Pedro. I've known him for a few years. And then he showed up with a random guy, and he's like, my name is James. And I looked at him, and he's like, you're that guy with the Justin Bieber avatar. So, yeah, I remember him. He was playing 1-2 for a long time. I think he retired now, but yeah, he always had that fucking annoying Justin Bieber avatar. So, I would just block the image and then be like, no, this is, I'm being mentally weak. Like, why would I block an image? That's so stupid. And then I would see Justin Bieber again. I was like, fuck Justin Bieber. And then I would block it again. I was like, damn, he got me. But yeah, those guys for sure. Progressive is great. Sauce, Phil Galfond, Felipe Pive. Oh, I don't know his name. The Brazilian guy, Felipe Ski. I don't even want to try and fuck it up. But yeah, all those guys. For people who don't make run enough volume on for the CFP, do you recommend Run It Once to improve? I think a CFP works better when it comes to improvement, Chowzor. But if you don't want to commit to that, then I mean, both are like I think the CFP is better, but Run It Once is also good. So if you're saying Run It Once is or a CFP is out of the question, or any type of coaching is out of the question, then sure, Run It Once would work as well. All right, let's do some more hands.
So I'm not sure. You have 3 different with 3 rainbow. I think it's a pretty good flop to slow play. Unfortunately, if you raise here, you look extremely strong. There's not a whole lot in this 3-way pot that you can't have any semi-bluffs. I mean, if he's a weaker player, he might not be considering your range, but assume for a second that he's a good hand reader. You're not going to be calling in this situation pre-flop with 7-5 suited or 5-4 suited. So you can't have any draws here. So I think that you do need a bluff raising range, but it's going to be tough for them to think you're actually bluffing very often, which makes it a pretty good bluff spot, assuming his range pre-flop isn't too tight. But I think calling's best. You have the additional benefit of this guy in the big blind who came along with a short stack, and who actually, if he has Jack 10 here, is probably just going to shove. And then you can hope that down to the gun raiser wakes up with queens or something behind him, and you get the whole stack in right there on the flop. And I was trying to decide if he bets, if there's any merit in raising. I think probably not. I think that if he's betting, especially if he's betting up to like $15, there's enough that his river bet, like you'd like him to continue bluffing, his river bet there would be for a significant enough portion of his stack that if you don't get the rest when you shove, which you often will if he has a value hand, that's perfectly fine, and you'll have already made a lot. So I think I'd just call again. Had he bet? Given that he checked, I would certainly bet. Probably on the larger side. I mean, this isn't a board on which he has a lot of marginals. He can have marginals. He can have 8s. He can have ace-7. I mean, if he's opening really wide pre-flop, he can have 8-6. But I think that he is not very likely going to make like a bluff raise if you decide to bet 9 or like $7 here, and he's also not going to take a hand like Queen 10 of clubs and then facing a $9 bet decide that he can now call. He's just going to fold that hand regardless of what you bet, so I'd rather bet a little bit bigger and charge his pairs. I'd go even a little bit bigger than this, assuming that he's not going to be strong enough a player to kind of sniff that out. 7 on the river, not a bad card. It's certainly in his range, but I'm not too concerned about it. It's a little worrisome that he check called the turn rather than leading, because it takes a lot of jacks out of his range, which means, the 7's in there, but more often it's going to be like either some kind of like ace-5 weak draw that he decided to check call with. This is assuming he's a weaker player. Pocket 5s, pocket 8s. That's about it, though. Like basically mid pocket pairs, mid pairs, and so the 7 does matter. I mean, depending on the type of player he is, it might be a little tough to get a call, but there's nothing to do other than value bet. Here on the right table, we raised ace-6 suited on.
Okay, so on the turn, so we call the flop, which I like because it's very difficult to raise, as I said. I'm also not repping a lot, so I don't think we need any raises once he bets medium size there, multi-way. On the turn, I don't entirely agree with the huge bet. It's just difficult to find too many hands that want to bet big. I mean, we're going to have a lot of middle pairs that would want to either check or not bet big, or some medium jacks that want to bet normal. We'll have like 7s, I guess, that wants to bet huge, but that's not very many hands. So against a range that's contains some traps, like a few traps, some medium strength hands and give ups, I think a smaller bet size makes more sense. And on the river, maybe include a bigger bet. He is a big fish, so he can check call with, he might be check calling with king queen on the turn as well. Like, who knows? On the river, this is just a very easy bet. If we bomb it here, there's a good chance he doesn't even raise with a 7. And if he does, I think we can just fold. I don't think a fish is just going to take in like 6-5 and check raise all in. So yeah, I will. And also, big fish tend to be big calling stations because they play wide ranges. So when they finally have something like, you know, Queen Jack here, they're not going to fold, even if they know that we look very strong. You know, they might consider it, but then in the end, they still always call. So that is one like tip when you're playing against fish, especially big fish. Don't try to bluff them off too many good hands. If in a spot you think they have a lot of, like, let's say you have a 5-high missed gut shot, and you think that they have a lot of random overcards, they're going to fold anyway, that's a good spot for a bluff. But if, let's say, the board is like ace 3-3, I would not triple barrel a hand like 5-4 suited, hoping that he folds an ace. I mean, he knows you will have hands like ace king that beat him, but if he has a hand like ace 9, he's still always going to call, or almost always. So that's something to be careful of. You can bluff fish off air, very weak hands, but don't try and bluff. Like, don't go for like psycho bluffs against fish. You know, don't try to outplay the fish by you know, like, oh, look at all these cool concepts I know and you don't. That's not how you beat up on a fish. All right. And then on the right table, I raised 3x, which I'm not a big fan of. This is basically what everybody was doing back then, or almost everyone. On the flop, a lot of people nowadays just check their entire range. If you don't check your range, betting a couple of sixes makes sense. So I would not mind betting, even though I know Phil is going to recommend the check. It's also funny, like, look at the notes I made, like, flats. I'm basically, like, I think back then I should not have turned to poker. I should have turned to writing, because, I mean, I think I could have written some good novels. Flats button with 4-4. Bets king 5-3 3-way. Checks through on jack turn. Just calls on non-flush for river. So blah 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 blah. So what I should have just written down is misses value river. Boom. The end. Or doesn't raise set river, or something like that. That's all you need. So you don't need to write down like, yesterday it was a sunny day. I saw a rainbow, and then I finally sat down to play poker, and there was a hand in which a fish bet multi-way and then river to set, and then he didn't raise, and it was so good because I saved $25, and with that $25 I bought a chocolate cake. No, don't write novels. Write down, like, so when you see a hand, draw a conclusion from it, and then write that down. So not like checked back 4-4 on 7-4 deuce. Just write XB set F. Checks back flop set. SRP maybe. Single raise spot. That's it. Boom. No stories. So, and because what ends up happening is you write this whole story, and then in the end you never read it because it takes too much energy and you're already focused on another table. So yeah, definitely my note-taking skills have improved since then. Also, when you play high stakes, you're only playing against a few dozen opponents, so, you know, I kind of, like, I don't need to look at notes to see how a guy like Katya plays. I've memorized all of his stats. I know how he plays. Like, I know what he's good at. I know what he's bad at. I know what he does differently than others, not necessarily good or bad. Like, I know how they play. But if you play, let's say, NL25, there's hundreds of players in the pool, so you just can't possibly remember all of them. Anyway, Lizzie1664 says, I'm multi-tabling daily versus a bunch of fish on soft sides with virtually no regs, and now I'm worried that how I stay sharp. Well, first off, Lizzie, that's a good thing, as in not staying sharp, but that you're playing against a bunch of fish. If you feel like you're just crushing fish all day long, you can always just move up, and then the game will be a bit tougher. And if that doesn't even work, then you could always just play like a slightly tougher game where you're still making money. So, you know, you just play on PokerStars instead to just like train a bit. But, you know, if you're playing against really bad players all day long, you have a great win rate, don't change that. You know, like, people try to always think like at a certain point you're doing something well. You know, you don't always need to change something anymore. So if you're doing that and you're beating up on the fish, great. Keep on doing it. Sure, you can have some practice, but that doesn't mean like, I don't feel challenged, let's stop playing fish and let's play good players with high rake. No, that's not how it works. Do you think it's still possible to move from Mycos to making a living online? Yes. As I said, hard work and smart work are more important than they were in the past, first played. But yes, it can be done. Thoughts on Ishtar, Taxier, God of Heads Up, Lux Poker, and Big Blind Bets. Ishtar, long time reg, plays fine. Met him a few times. He's a nice guy. Tax here is definitely one of the top regs at 500 Zoom. Not just saying that because he's a student, but you know he is. He's definitely improved a lot. God of Heads Up, I think a lot of people think he's very bad. Some people think he's very good. I'm in the minority that thinks that he's very good. He's definitely a handful to play. Lux Poker used to just play all day long. Doesn't really play much anymore. He plays fine. Big Blind Bets plays very well. He also hasn't been around that much anymore, but I know he's been crushing. How do you no-lock some hands in Pio? Well, let's not turn this into a Pio session, Rapidash, but you can find that out pretty quickly. Just Google it. It's not that difficult. Shout out to Northern Europe. Yeah, all you lazy bastards. So I recommend Rio over Upswing. I don't have an account on Upswing. Like I don't know their no limit content or whatever. Like I never watched the Duke series, but I would guess that RunItOnce has better products. But again, I don't quote me on that because Upswing seems like a good site as well. I don't think that is a trash site or anything. Oh, it's funny because Dennis says, yes, Upswing is trash. I had not read that comment yet. Even though it was before the questionnaire answer. Old MMA Pepe hands. Maybe one day. Thoughts on Learn Friend? Oh, there's a good chance you are Learn Friend from Taiwan. I remember that guy. I yelled at that guy in the chat so many times. I still remember. 22, 16, 5. 59 fold, 2 big blind steal, and then 56 blind versus blind. I remember all his stats. That fucker. The problem is he was one of the, back then there were way more short stackers at Zoom than there are now. There's actually almost none anymore. Yeah, I would just play badly against him. I mean, he would not play great, but I would just play so badly against him, and then he would also just sunrun the ever-living shit out of me, and then I would just always yell at this guy in the chat. I've yelled at him so many times. I've called him everything basically. So shout out to Learn Friend. He's definitely cost me a few months of my life. Physical exercise. I mean again like it's hard to tell you like this is what you should do as in what everybody should do because everyone's different. But yeah, I would say just like working out and being tired is just great for your mentality in general. So everybody likes different things. I prefer jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, that type of stuff, or even just something that really gets my heart rate up. I do go to the gym, but I don't really like it. Do most people have good red lines in 6max? Well, I don't search people in my HUD and then look at their red lines, but I know who's winning probably and who's not. I'd say most people are losing red line. Mine is like, it depends. I change my style around from time to time. Like mine is like break even to slightly losing. Do you watch Sin Karma videos? No. Actually, somebody sent me one of his videos for the first time like 2 days ago. So I watched like a minute of it. It was actually like him playing against me. That's why somebody sent it. But it was so spazzy. It was like zoomed in. Like I could see every single molecule or every single atom. It was difficult to watch. So, but what do you think about him? Like, he's a good player. Is he an elite player? No, but he's good, of course. I mean, if you're sitting 5K and the table doesn't fill, you're a good player. Is he plus EV in the games he plays? No, but he will probably tell you that as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. John Jules' weakness is coke and dick pills. Yeah, that's probably true, David. Would you accept people playing at NL 10 on stars? Yes. There is no minimum bankroll required anti-loops. If you're interested in signing up, go to the BluffTheSpot.com website and just sign up. And I mean, that doesn't mean you're committed to anything. You can just fill out some info and see that if, see if we can come to an agreement. But yeah, as I said, there's no, it's not like you're locked into something if you just send an application form. So go for it. So as long as you do some kind of exercise, you're set. Well, again, everyone is different. Some people need more exercise than others, but I would aim to do at least some every day. Like, even if you don't work out hard, just, take the dogs out for a walk or something like that. At least, don't sit down all day. That's very bad for your health. Mental and physical health. Do you have a mental game coach on BluffTheSpot? Yes. Yes, we do actually. We have a mental game coach. We have a mental game video series that all the BluffTheSpot students have access to. And of course, since all BluffTheSpot coaches have also gone through mental ups and downs, so you can also just ask the coaches and ask them for input, because part of us being successful is having overcome mental problems. As in, everybody has weaknesses. And we've managed to tackle them. How would you study when you play in soft games that play almost every hand far from equilibrium? I would probably study. So first, what I always like to do, I like to study a proper game, because once I play against a good player, I want to be able to play against them. And once you move up, people get better and better. So you don't want to have a purely exploitative style. And then once you move up, as I said, then you get crushed. So I would learn a solid style and then deviate from that. And it's possible that you would deviate 95% of the time, but at least you know the starting point. At least you know where you're deviating from. When you're like in the middle, you go from like a basic strategy towards an exploitative strategy. So figure out a good basic strategy and then work from there. Work towards an exploitative strategy, but not the other way around. That's very difficult to correct once you start playing higher stakes. How would you study when you play in... okay, I just read that. What software do you recommend? Just a HUD. HUD is most important. You can do... If you play Zoom, you can use something like Stars Helper, let's say, but I would just keep it fairly simple, Whipex. Grinding to get rid of 250k student loans. Yeah, that's not easy, David, but good luck. What is the easiest way to learn the necessary components of Excel for PyScript? Well, Elias, we'll have to do entire coaching sessions on for that. I can't just say, "Oh, do that, this and that," and you'll know. So that won't be easy. I'm not sure. So Learn Friend asks, I'm not sure if it is Learn Friend. Do you think 500 Zoom is still beatable now? Yes, it is. If there's 20 regs in the pool and 2 semi-fish, then it's going to be extremely difficult to win. Correct. But part of winning is being selective. Part of winning, is bum hunting. So you can easily bum hunt when there's like one fish at a regular table. You can also just bum hunt 500 Zoom. Just play when the pool is good, and then when it's not good, you play 200 Zoom, and you play 400 NL or whatever. What typical length of the CFP is how long does a CFP contract last? I think it's typically around a year, Clavier. It's also based on your amount of hands. How often do you use it was a low frequency play excuse for your spews? Not very often, KZX. I do spew, but not with... I don't use that excuse. I use other excuses, but not that one. Alright, let's do some more hands.
Under the gun, which I think is fine. At a tough table or an aggressive table, I think you can just go ahead and fold that and actually play ace-5 suited down and ace-9 suited up. 6, 7, 8, I think, are the weakest aces because they don't have the straight draw to go with them. But as it played out, you fought top pair on 6-4-2. I think it's an interesting spot to consider a check call. A lot of his hands that will be stabbing will be hands that you'd like to put a bet in with. And yes, you're giving him a free card potentially, and you do need protection from a hand like Queen Jack, but we'd still rather Queen Jack put $6 in here than just fold to your bet. And I think it works out nicely because there are not a ton of hands that you can be value betting on this flop with your under the gun range. They basically need to be over pairs, and this hand. And a lot of his continuing range when you bet is going to be doing very well against your hand, so I'd actually rather check and induce a bluff. But this c-bet is never something that I would point out as a leak or something that needs fixing. It's just almost a matter of preference even.
Okay, so this is a tricky spot. Most people nowadays would check their whole range once in position flat calls, especially against a 3x raise. That is quite a big difference compared to, let's say, a 2.2x raise. So if you check full range, of course you would check this hand as well. If you have a c-betting range, I would say this hand does perform fairly well. I mean, you want to c-bet a couple of sixes. You don't have that many, and the one with the top kicker, I mean, you're not gonna have many sixes. You're gonna have 6-7, maybe 6-5, and then a6. Maybe you have king-6, but that's pretty loose. So having a 6 in that c-betting range would be fine. But as Phil said, it is pretty close. You are giving away quite a bit of equity by allowing him to check back and see free cards. I would probably like to see the sizing be a bit smaller. Once he calls 3x, he's going to have a lot of 7s through 10s or jacks. Especially back in the day when people would flat hands like jacks more often, or n10s. So yeah, I think the sizing kind of, it does, you want to find a sizing that allows you to get value, and this is making it tricky, because it's hard. He'll call with 8-7, and he'll call maybe with ace queen of hearts. He'll call with 5s, but then he's also calling with all the overpairs and whatever that you're doing very badly against. So yeah, I prefer a smaller sizing if I do bet. Can I make an NTT video? Monk asks. Yeah, sure I will, but not yet.
I think either play is fine. So yeah, left table, pretty easy river bet. We went on the larger side, which I think is perfectly fine against who we assume is a weaker player with what we assume is of some kind of pair. But he ends up folding. And some kind of standard preflop
Oh, what am I doing here?
decisions so far. Jack-6 offsuit on the button. I think you, in a lot of lineups, can get away with opening a ton of hands on the button. In a tough lineup, I would not open this hand, but nothing wrong with it. In a situation where people are not going to be 3-betting enough and probably not defending their blinds enough either.
Okay, so
Pair. You're under the gun range. A lot of his continue or something, which I think is a weak, which I think is folding.
So Phil made a good point in saying, that it really depends on the lineup, but I should really have a HUD if I want to open this. Again, short stacks you can open less, not more. I mean, this hand is just this open is really terrible. This guy is not a fish. Even if he were a fish, even if you can outplay him, it's really hard to outplay somebody with Jack-6 offsuit when you don't have big cards, you're offsuit, you don't have a straight draw to go with it. It's just extremely difficult. And, you basically have to, the board has to be dry, and then you can bet him off his, better nothing or something like that. Yeah, so I think this open is quite terrible. He's going to 3-bet you small a lot, and you'll just have to end up way over folding. Also, with these stacks in play, I should raise smaller, although I don't blame myself for that. There's no way I could have known that back then. So, yeah, this open is losing quite a lot. This is very bad. Phil would have folded, but he didn't scold me badly. But, yeah, this is very, very bad. Especially, as I said, with no HUD. You should play your standard range, which back in the day would have been 50%, let's say, and then you adjust. So if you think that your opponent is bad in some way, but I have no reads, so I can't know if he's overfolding or under check raising or whatever. So unless I know that unless I've just seen him call everything and then always fold, he's just super easy to run over. I can't make this big of an adjustment. So yeah, this is not good.
You, in a lot of lineups, can get it. Standard stuff. I assume we'll just be check folding this flop on the left.
Queen 10 was an open, obviously. And 5 would have been check folded on the flop, exactly.
No reason to do anything here. When he checks back, we just have basically the worst kind of hand we can have. And a lot of people think, towards the bottom of your range, you should bluff, but you should have a little bit of equity if you're going to be semi-bluffing, and this is kind of a no equity.
Yeah, I don't have no equity, but I have very little, and I have so many worse hands to bluff, as in, I could be bluffing with king high here, I could be bluffing with hearts, I can be bluffing with 7 high, I can have, I can bluff the river with, complete hands that have no showdown value at all, like 6-4 suited, let's say, so 5s is just, you're not getting any better hands to fold, really. You're not getting worse hands to call. You can win sometimes. This is just a very easy check on the river. There's really nothing to do but check.
Very, very weak showdown value kind of hand. So I think just check folding.
The 5s here on the river kind of block the, the 5-6 of clubs, no equity hands that would check back twice and bet river with. So this hand is not very good to call with. So, and of course I'm also extremely low down in my range. So if I were to fold this, it doesn't mean that I'm over folding. It doesn't really mean that I'm over folding. So yeah, very easy fold. So good play by me, even though it was not really anything special.
Every street is fine. Standard open on the right, and I think c-betting is probably best. We have more hands that can bet this board, so we're not leaving our throats open like we were with the ace-6 on the 6-4-2, where we don't have a lot of very strong hands.
I would say here, we have all the strong hands, as in we have all the sets and the ace queens or whatever. But I would definitely want to see a lot of checks on this board. Once he calls 3x with the button behind him, well, with 3 players behind him, he's gonna have ace queens so often. He's gonna have ace king. He's gonna have jacks down the 7s or 6s. He's just not gonna have any of the 9-7 suited type of no equity hands. So yeah, he's doing pretty well here. Almost every hand in his range has a decent amount of equity. So yeah, we're actually doing worse than you think, even though the board looks so innocent.
But I guess actually, balance and fearing people attacking our weaker range is something that I don't need to worry about as much at lower stakes.
Same thing here. This guy's a big fish. We should be 3-betting and be 3-betting big to get value, to isolate ourselves. Isolate this player heads up.
So on the left table, an interesting decision with ace-king suited here. It depends what type of player this is. He is blue. I don't know which blue this means, but some kind of weaker player, presumably. That would lead me to believe that we should be 3-betting this hand to isolate him and get value in, get money in good. Against a good regular, I'd probably just be calling here. I don't think there's enough value in starting to...
Well, that's something I definitely would disagree with. I think Phil back then probably would have opened something like 20%, and against 20% range, ace-king is just absolutely crushing. There's almost no range in poker that ace-king suited does not crush, so I definitely would have liked the 3-bet in basically any situation. Unless, let's say, there's like a crazy businessman fish who squeezes 40% or something, and you're playing against a nit, the undergun opener is a nit, then I guess it might be fine. So you call, and then that fish always squeezes, and then you can, you can back raise. But unless we have like a really crazy read like that, 3-betting is just easily a best play.
To force extra money in with ace-king suited against an under-the-gun opening range. But since he's weaker, I think you can go ahead and raise. Ace-king offsuit, I'd be a little bit more likely to raise, actually, because ace-king suited doesn't mind a 4 or 5-way pot. But calling is definitely fine there. And I think you'll see, if you guys haven't already noticed from watching videos of mine, that a lot of decisions are close, and I wouldn't fault you too much for either decision in a lot of these spots.
What Phil said is true. Oftentimes, this is also something important to keep in mind. A lot of the times, the difference in EV between two decisions is very marginal. So, you can just make a play and lose a few times, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong play. So oftentimes you'll just get mad at yourself thinking you're playing badly when you're actually playing well, just because you're running badly. So, of course, there's a human element, and nobody's perfectly rational at all times. But, that you can just pull like, you can just bet the river with a hand that's good at showdown, like 60%, then you just lose 5 times in a row, and it was still a good bet. But then it feels like it wasn't, and then you start tightening up. So you actually start playing, and then you start checking back, and you start winning, and then it feels like you're playing better, even though you're playing worse. So don't be too results oriented. Just look at the play and think, was this a good play? And whatever happens, happens. What is your solution to the seeding script system? I don't think we should get rid of them. I think that bum hunting, it will never go away in poker. Bum hunting will never go away in life. The strong prey on the weak. That's just how life is. We should just make the experience for the weaker players as good as possible. So, for instance, like when you see like a weaker player sitting, you have like a snap sit, within a tenth of a second. That just makes it look artificial. It makes it look like a robot is doing this. I mean, a program is doing it. So just making the fish more comfortable is the way to go. But saying there will be no bum hunting. I mean, as I said, like, people find edges. If they don't get an edge, they don't play. At least the smart ones don't. So I don't think you can ever eradicate bum hunting completely. You'll see that in party poker where they try to take where they try to set up a different lobby system, and it just doesn't work. It just kills action. It creates grimming and angles and whatever. It doesn't really work. People should accept like the strong prey on the weak in all walks of life, sports, poker, everything. That is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be, of course, but it's not always a bad thing. No, Calcus. We also want to hear what Phil has to say. I mean, we're reviewing his video, not just it's not just a random hand history review, so we'll have to hear him speak. Phil Galfond's way of commenting is a bit old school. Well, the thing is, Learn Friends. I think he's the actual Learn Friend, but I'm not sure. This video is over 5 years old, so of course his advice will be outdated, even though so far we've agreed on basically everything. So I would not say this is, like, oh, Phil is saying things that are not correct. I think so far he's been, almost everything I've agreed with. The not 3-betting ace king suited, I think is I definitely don't like. But other than that, I mean, I know I was doing it back in the day, so there were different, there was a different metagame back then. So yeah, Learn Friend is kind of retired. He plays for fun, like under 50k. So let's say 40k. So he's probably playing more hands than a lot of you, and he's kind of retired. So take note of that. Even though he's cost me a lot of hair, he does work hard. I don't know if you guys remember Intense Dog. That guy, like, I haven't seen him in like 5 years. He played, I think, 450k hands in 1 month, and then he was just gone and then he never showed up again. It is important, like, you have to remember that a grind is not a sprint, it's a marathon, so some people, they like use all their motivation, they go to the gym 10 times in a week for a few weeks, and then they just take a 6-month break because they can't keep up. Whereas if you just go every other day, you actually make it manageable for the future. You want to have a long-term plan. Asian people work 12 hours a day. Well, yeah, that is probably true, and that's something commendable for sure. Assuming this is I mean, I do think that's true. Like, Asian people tend to work harder. I am tranquil. I'm not sure that is true, because your name is German and that account was Russian, so I doubt it's true, but nice try. Let's see. I never read my novels in my notes. Well, yeah, that's why you have to make short notes so you actually use them. Snitches get stitches. Okay. Let's see. Goddamn. All right, I'll stop writing down the wind speed with outside and my heart rate when I take notes. Very important, KZX. Very important. What was your win rate back at 100L? I don't really know, Breeze. I always moved up quite quickly. So what I did was like, my argument was always like, I want to like move up as fast as possible, really play against the best players as much as I can. And then, I'll always play a bit under-rolled and like under-skilled, but then I'll learn very quickly, and then eventually I'll stick to that stake that I got to early, and then start building my role. So I wouldn't be shocked if I was like a break-even player when I moved up, or like a small winner. I was definitely not a crusher. I was definitely not, under 100L players were definitely not like, oh, that MMA guy, yeah, he's a good reg. He's a guy to watch out for. Definitely not. LeBron or Kobe, I mean, I know who they are, of course, but I don't know enough about basketball to have an opinion. I mean, they're obviously both amazing athletes. LeBron has the bigger name. He's the consensus #1 player, I guess, but yeah, they're both amazing. I'm from Central Europe and I'm lazy. Do I have Viking ancestors? I don't think Vikings were necessarily lazy, but richer people tend to be more lazy. I mean, that's just how it is. If your daddy has 50 million bucks in the bank, of course, like, he never made you get a job, he never made you do anything. Of course, you're gonna be more lazy. Whereas if you grew up in, Siberia, of course, you're gonna be working harder. That's just how you were raised. Have you been reunited with your GG money? No, I have not been. And I was told today I will not be getting it back. So I'm gonna basically tell him, listen, you have 1 week to send it back. And otherwise, I'm just gonna make a thread about it on 2+2 and out you guys, because it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, banning people for not losing is one thing, but taking their money, that is just theft. So I'll also be filing a complaint with the gaming authority. I mean, I'm very sour with these things. Like, I don't like if I put money on a site and I had a fair chance of playing and I lose, I'm fine with that. That does not tilt me, because I know the risks of playing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I hate this type of stuff. I really hate it. This unfair business. But yeah, anyway, they still have a short chance of redeeming themselves. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt for now. But yeah, don't expect too much. Notice Poker Clock has been taking shots. I have a lot to say about him, but I'm not gonna. And since your name is Smurf, there's a good chance this is actually Poker Clock. No, Poker Clock is way too baller to watch this stream. So I'm not gonna comment. Linus is too rich for 5K. Linus is even too rich for 10K a lot of the time. I mean, yeah, he often doesn't try to take the lobby anymore. He's not really getting any action, and he doesn't want to play on all sites and like find games. He wants games to come to him. Thoughts on Crybaby? I never know if it's Crybaby or Check Raise All In Baby. I think it's both. That guy I've also yelled at the chat many times. Basically, anybody who's like aggressive and spazzy or weird, I've yelled at in the chat many times. I mean, he was good back in the day. Now, like a bit less, but he's still fine. He plays fine. Will you do the stream? Yeah. When will Anada get a Sin Karma question? Yeah. And I bet that within the next 20 minutes, I'm gonna get a Nick Howard question as well, KZX. Am I still gonna do the bankroll challenge? Yes, I will be. But again, I want to do it properly. I don't just want to fuck around. Do you have a boxing bag? At home in the Netherlands, I do. But since we moved to a different house, I have to find like something to I have to nail it to the wall. In Malta, I don't, because I live in an apartment and the neighbors would be complaining. So, but there's a Hilton nearby with a boxing bag. So, and the gym is not far. The kickboxing gym. Gym or cake? You have to stay balanced, BBI sick. Why not a combo of both? How did I stop tilting? Part of it is just experience, just like basically numbing my senses and not caring enough anymore. But also just getting older. Everybody at 18 is kind of angry. Eventually, you just calm down a bit. Just also, I would say one thing that always tilted me was playing on the roll. That's something I wouldn't really recommend. I mean, you can take some shots, but it's very easy to always use that excuse and just be playing underrolled instead. I mean, it's a shot. It's something you do a few times a year max. You know, it's very easy to turn that just into a crazy grind. So yeah, that there's many different things, but that is one thing that I would recommend, just playing with a proper bankroll, Monk. If you watch an educational poker video and don't take notes, how bad is that? Again, everyone's different. I know I've said that 5 times already, but some people remember easily, some people don't. I would try to make notes, though. Just have like a file, just, you know. Arthur saw that on my computer maybe earlier. I have a file called Poker Knowledge, and all of these little pieces of knowledge about poker, like other than the obvious ones, I just write down. And then sometimes I go through them, and sometimes like I just forgot about something. As in, it was just in the back of my mind. So, and I just read it from time to time. You should be doing the same. At least I think it's a good way of doing it. What do you think the balance between low effort and high effort studying should be? I'm gonna say it a 6th time. Everyone's different. I'm the type of guy who mostly improves by playing, and while I'm playing, I think of a strategy. As in, you know, if I feel like this is a tough spot, I'm gonna think about my whole range, like how to play my strategy, or by just looking at a hand. I don't go in pile as much. At the same time, I mean, I've also done so much pile in my life that, you know, a lot of the time, if I look something up, I already knew what was gonna happen. So yes, I don't study as much, but then there's other guys, like for instance Daniel Show of Force. He Show of Force probably studies more than he plays, whereas I play way more. Like my play to study ratio is probably 95-5, and his is probably 40-60, I would guess. So everyone's different. There's not necessarily a better or worse method. You'll see like I know, like I'm pretty sure that a guy like Linus doesn't really study much anymore. But then I also know some guys at high stakes who, you know, study most of the time. Everyone's different. So whatever works for you, just don't hold it against you. You know, if you're not the type of guy to study, you still have to study sometimes. That's not an excuse to be lazy, but, you know, everyone is different, so it doesn't necessarily make you lazy as long as you put in effort in the areas where you're stronger. Is there any point in using a HUD at micro stakes? Yes, but just keep it very basic. Just the basics like VPIP, PFR, 3-bet, one was off flop, stuff like that. And don't draw too many conclusions from small samples. I see a lot of students do that. So a lot of students who will join. At first, they don't really use the HUD, and then I tell them, look at all these leaks they have based on big samples. Start using the HUD. So for instance, one of the biggest ones is small blind open raising, where, you know, they join and I see like 38% small blind raise at 50 NL, and I tell them, look, this guy's folding 58% blind versus blind. Why are you not raising more often? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. So then I see him raise king 6 offsuit against that guy. I'm like, okay, good job. But then I see them raise king 6 offsuit against the best guy in the pool as well, who's folding 33%. And then I'm telling them like, no. You raise against people who are asking to be raised against, not against anybody. And then they're like, well, he folded 1 out of 1 times, but like that doesn't matter. That is completely insignificant. It does not matter if somebody folded once. So yeah, the small, like if you like, so you know, they see like, oh, he's 14 VPIP over 7 hands, I'm just gonna raise 80% in small blind, you know, where that basically means nothing. So yeah, since you have small samples on everyone, I would say just sticking to the very basics, like the basics is best. I'm crushing with you in the background. Will you stream every day? We'll see about that. We'll see. I would say that NL10, like if you play lower stakes, you should be doing just a lot of study, a lot of playing. Playing is still the best way of getting better. That's a very long post, Alec. I'm not gonna read it, read all of it, but I'm sure it's good. What do I think of the super high roller regs? I would say some are very good, some are not so good. Actually, he's probably gonna listen to this and then send me another message. So I was talking like last time we did a stream on the 100K high roller in the Bahamas, and I said that one guy was misplaying most of his hands, and they actually sent me an angry message on Skype, like offering crossbooks and whatever. So, you know, I mean, he knew I was never going to accept, like, I mean, I play 3 tournaments a year. Like, even though you're playing badly, in my opinion, of course you're a better tournament player, because, I mean, I just get no volume at all. Like, I know you're better than me, even though in those particular spots you were wrong. So, I mean, he knew I was never going to accept. So, but it was funny that I got an angry message. So, you know, if I say that, oh, this hand is played wrong, it means I doesn't mean I have anything against somebody. It just means, in my opinion, it was wrong. I'm saying Galfond is giving terrible advice. No, he's been giving great advice, I would say. Let's see. All right, let's do a little bit more footage.
And we've kind of yet to see a situation where I kind of strongly disagreed with how he's been playing. Checking this down is certainly normal. There's nothing wrong. I think exploitively you can bet at some point, just to make them fold hands with equity. There's a tiny bit of value on the flop, maybe getting calls from ace, queen, ace, jack, but for the most part it's just a protection type bet. But checking it down is certainly fine, and as it played out, he had ace, jack, which may have called one bet, may not have. I would definitely take a note on him that he played his hand that way. A lot of people would just c-bet. Seems like he decided to just, I guess, check fold, maybe check call one, which is definitely relevant. And, you know, how you want to use that stat will depend on, you know, the situation that comes up. But it's important, or sorry, that note. But it's important to know. On the right table, we decided to 3-bet with jack 3 suited. Definitely not part of what I would consider a standard 3-betting range in this spot.
All right, so a little bit of downtime, and then here I decided to 3-bet jack 3 suited. Phil was just going to talk about. So this is against Below Tail. I remember I used to play him a few years ago. He played up to 500 Zoom. He's a Russian guy who a lot of people suspected was a bot. There were a couple of guys back then, they played this very strange style where they all play somewhat tight stats. So he would play 24-20. I remember all these guys would play roughly those stats. And then he would just be insanely aggressive post-flop. He would have mid-50s almost on flop. So against 3x, so here, what people used to do was they would 3-bet the top of their folding range. So here, maybe I would have called in like jack 5 suited, so a hand like jack 3, I thought, okay, I'm going to 3-bet that. As in, still, like, I have a decent suit and one high card, but it's not strong enough to call. Pio doesn't really do that, or Munker. So it doesn't 3-bet hands like king 7 offsuit or like ace 3 offsuit much, or like hands like these. Against 3x with such high rake, you can just do a lot of folding. So this is just a clear fold. Unless, let's say, our opponent is way over folding and not 4-betting. Then it makes more sense. But against somebody who's this aggressive, it's unlikely that makes sense. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of that.
I would like a read. And by standard, I don't mean that you can't have some weaker hands. I just think jack 3 suited is a little bit too weak. He's going to be continuing with a lot of hands that dominate yours, especially jack, like king jack, queen jack, 10 jack, ace jack. So you're really building a pot, forcing out his weaker hands, and he's just extremely likely to call you with all those hands that dominate your jack. Obviously, your 3 is not that great. But more importantly, if you're 3-betting this hand, you're 3-betting too often. Now again, if you had a HUD and his fold to 3-bet stat was something, you know, ridiculously high, then by all means go ahead and exploit that and 3-bet more than you quote-unquote should. But I think this hand's just a little bit too weak. Doesn't have very good playability when it gets called. Obviously, I know that you know it's a semi-bluff or bluff 3-bet, But I think there are better hands to choose, and I think that one can just go in the muck.
Yeah. I don't think I have much more to add. Yep, I agree with that. And then on the left
But more
here,
important,
I folded. I think that's good as well. I could have the best hand, but I think it's very difficult to get the shot on and win here. I also, if I have the best hand, he's gonna have a decent amount of equity for sure. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. This is fairly spewy, for sure. Also, the 3-bet is too small. It should be more around 12. Biggest Oompa Loompa in poker. I've called Ryan Fees an Oompa Loompa, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I've said Oompa Loompa, but I'm not sure what it really means. It's kind of like, yeah, it's one of those little aliens that, you know, if you remember Wee Man from Jackass, like, he dressed up as an Oompa Loompa once, and he did that skateboarding video that was like 10 years ago. So when I think of an Oompa Loompa, it's kind of somebody, how do you call it? Like, Napoleon syndrome? Not Napoleon. Fuck, I don't know how to say it in English. Somebody who basically, like, somebody short or somebody who can't do a lot of damage who thinks he can. Somebody like that, you know. So, you know, a small guy with a big mouth. So, who's the top 5 people in poker doing that? I'm really not sure. I'm not sure. Did I get my 10K from Bill Perkins? Yes, I did. I got it in Barcelona at the EPT. That was pretty cool of him. I was gonna meet him for dinner, but he didn't have time. I mean, I'm sure he has better things to do than go to dinner with me. So we didn't manage to set that up. But then his assistant, that was his assistant 2 actually, or maybe assistant 45. I don't know, because I know he has minimum 2 assistants. So we went to a burger place with some other guys like Bit Too Easy and MC Zong, like you know, the regular crew. So we're eating these greasy burgers, and then this lady shows up. I mean, it was all planned, and then she just hands me an envelope, and I open it, like I can barely use my hands because they're so greasy, and I see like there was 10K USD in it, in like in a wrapper. So, and then she's like, "Hello, okay, see you, bye." And then, you know, that was just there on the table. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but you know, I'm glad to have that back. It's kind of a funny moment though. So it's actually still like lying around. I'm not gonna say where, obviously, but yeah, I'll probably just take it to Vegas and then you know, trade it, because I don't really need USD. I was thinking, actually, the weather's been so bad here in the Netherlands and even in Malta, and a lot of my friends are abroad anyway. So I was thinking of doing like a last minute vacation or something. I was looking up the Dominican Republic or something like that, where it's like, you know, 25, 30 degrees and it's sunny. I can still work from there. I can still play. I can still do some coaching work and whatever. So I might just do like a last minute trip. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll just go over myself. Why not? Let's see. If you threaten them so they out you, still out them. Yeah, I mean, I do agree that they should be ethical for the sake of wanting to be ethical, not because I have leverage, you know, because I have a name in the community. I do agree with that, because imagine you get your money taken, like they take your money, but you know, you play, let's say, NL50 and like people haven't heard of you, then you have no, you know, no way of getting it back. So I do agree that that doesn't make it right. Although it does feel, you know, it would be nice if they give me my money back, because it's quite a bit. But yeah, if they don't, I'm just gonna make a thread about it, and then, you know, I'm sure they lose way more money than they've taken from me. So, and not like, you know, I mean, I'm just telling people what happened. You know, I'm not gonna, you know, they can draw their own conclusions, but yeah. I remember a few years ago I made a thread on Party Poker. They never stole money or anything. They were just ridiculously stupid, and I basically told them, like, listen, look how stupid this website is. Like, they have lost me so much money with bugs, and they just simply ignore me every single time. And then like a day later, the party rep was like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay you back if you delete the thread." I'm like, I appreciate that you're giving me my money back, but you know, you're kind of doing it under duress of, you know, you damaging your reputation, not because you actually wanted to fix it. But whatever, you know, at least it's something. It's better than nothing. It's better than if they still say, go fuck yourself. The bankroll challenge will be happening, Björk fan. Any opinion on Limitless? He's also a high stakes baller now. Yeah, I mean, good player. He was playing all day for a while, and then he quit for a bit, and now he's back. I mean, he's a good player. Very nice guy as well. Have I played any short deck? I played one orbit of short deck on WPN. It was kind of scary because I basically, as I was getting dealt in, I was reading up some quick strategy, and then I realized, okay, I suck at this too much to play, and I lost like 1K, and then then it was over. So, but there's a 10K rat hole game on WPN with the. But yeah, I have to put more work into it. If I see that there's great games on PokerStars as well, then I just have to put some work in, and because it would be a shame if I if I miss out on good games because I don't know it. What's a rake at NL 1K to 5K? At 1K, so basically what I did a while ago, I basically filtered it in my HUD, but in my tracker, but I play different stakes, so it's merged. It merges different sides. So at 1K I was playing 2.6 big blinds. At 2K I was playing 1.5. At 5K I was playing 0.8. At 10K I was playing 0.6. At 20K 0.5, and at 40K 0.4. This is different for everyone because everybody plays different styles. So if you play loose or pre-flop, you play more rake, for instance. At 500 zoom, it's around 4 big blinds. But yeah, as I said, everyone plays a bit differently. My dream is to get back to 500 zoom one day, but why it's hard to make a decision to join BluffTheSpot and have the chance. Well, I mean, it is a commitment, but if you're willing to work hard, learn friend, I mean, you are obviously willing to work hard. You've been working hard for many years. You've probably also built up some bankroll, I mean, in the meantime. So, I think it's a good opportunity, but, it's up to you. But you clearly do not lack motivation. That already makes you better than a lot of the students who do. When will you buy a good mic? I actually do have a great mic. So I got a message saying that the mic quality, the sound quality is not great, but I'm holding it like right next to my face, and it's a good mic. It cost like $150. It's definitely a good mic. So, but yeah, we'll do some test streams and figure it out. Your volume is very low. Wait, let me just turn it up a little bit and then turn Phil's volume down. Maybe this works better, learn friend. Thoughts on how to improve for live players? Just play online sometimes. Play online, study as well, and then think again, like, work on your standard game and deviate from that, even if almost your entire game, even if in almost every hand you have to deviate. What do you think about GG Bruce? Is his chat game better? Yeah, GG Bruce seems to hate everybody. He just goes on Raging Tilt. I mean, the thing is, GG Bruce is a good player, but he's not plus EV in most of the games he plays. But he does. He basically all he does is play rec games, and even if he's winning, he's not winning much. So the swings are gigantic. So you're bound to lose eventually, and then he doesn't like it. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like your own fault, right? If you're denying fish action all the time, but then play regs you can't beat, then yeah, you're bound to lose. That is just gonna happen. He'll figure that out eventually, or not. I hope he doesn't. No, not because of him, but ideally, every single person on PokerStars reg games each other, and then they pay rake, and they go on downswings, and they go on spiritual trips across the world because they wanna, because they're depressed and everything, and then I'll be there and I'll play against the fish and make money. So I hope that happens. I hope I'm the only I like competition or whatever, but ideally I play against 6. Like I have 5 fish on my table. I don't get a hard on just by playing regs, even though sometimes I do. His chat game is definitely funny. Why are high stakes players so obsessed with who pays blinds. Well, the thing is, edges are small because everyone's good. So at a certain point, if you always get the button or get more buttons, it's just impossible to win. If you play, let's say, 2 orbits, but you play 1 extra button, it's basically impossible to lose. So then it's not about who the more skilled player is, it's just about who grims each other most. So sure, if you play a 3-hour session, it doesn't matter that much. But other than that, like, yeah, it does matter. I mean, you can just have like a 20 BB win rate or something. If you can beat people with 20 BB, then you're like, oh, whatever, I'll just keep calm, you know, just to like keep him happy and keep him in the game. But that's not how it works. People realize that edges are small. Do you have a crush on Linus? No. He's actually been mad at me for like quite a while. I think it's because one time like he opened a table, like he's like somebody sat at a table and they posted their blinds and I folded the button because I wasn't there, and then I left, and then he thought I grimmed him when I, you know, normally in a game like you ask like, do you want to play? And if yes, you post. But they were just posting, even though I didn't even want to play, I didn't even say anything, and they're like, hey, you grimmed us. I'm like, I didn't even know there was a hand. Like, the table was even closed without, like, I didn't even leave. Like, the table was just closed. I never even saw it. So I think he's mad about that. But I told him, like, you know, sure, it could, like, you could angle somebody like that where, let's say, if, let's say, you have 4-3 offsuit, you just time on and fold and act like you didn't see it. But then if you have a good hand, you obviously raise. But I really didn't see it. You know, I even had a hand I would have raised anyway, so, you know, I clearly was not angling him. So, but yeah, I think he's a bit mad at me about that, but, like, you know, he's the type of guy to just, Linus has paid a lot more big blinds in his life than buttons, for sure. But, I mean, so I have as well. I tried to, like, watch it more, like, I tried to be smarter about it, to pay fewer blinds. Not by grimming intentionally, but just by being smarter. Yeah. But what are you gonna do? Let's see. Linus is a computer. Maybe he is. Yeah, well, why is everyone complaining about the sound? Because I like I haven't done anything different, so apologies about that. MMA still uses a dirty rag for a mouse pad. He's not buying a new mic. Actually, I don't use that anymore. I don't use that anymore. Let him know. So stop talking shit. All right. If the sound is bad, I mean, we've been going for an hour and 45 minutes now, so we'll just wrap it up. I see there's quite a few viewers right now, and I appreciate it. So I guess you guys like it. So leave some feedback, and I can do a part 2 of this. I mean, we're only 24 minutes in. We got 36 left, so we can do a part 2. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me do a few more questions. And again, thanks to RunItOnce for letting me review their stuff. Let's see. Mute Galfond. No, we're not muting Galfond. Why are VOD subscriber only? Because what we're doing here, we're hanging out, and I'm trying to teach you something as well. But this is not like a free weekly coaching session where, you know, you just show up and you get 2 hours of coaching. You know, why would you ever sign up for coaching then? Or we're like, I mean, that would be unfair to the students as well because they are paying. So it's not a coaching session. So this is just a hangout, and if you want to be there, like if you wanna, you know, get something out of it, you have to be there. It's as I said, it's not a charity project. Like, yeah, like you can hang out. You don't have to subscribe if you don't want to, but you got to be there. That's the whole fun, you know, of it being interactive. Below tail is a bot. Well, he's definitely one of the guys that was suspected back then. Learn friend for sure knows him. I mean, yeah. Do you remember Scarface VLT? Well, I play against him on a daily basis. His mini 5-bet style. Yeah, he used to have a min 3-bet style as well. Like he would go like 3 big blinds, like, and then he would go like 6.5. It was definitely annoying. But the thing is, this is also a good point. If somebody's doing something and is really annoying you and you're really getting owned, it's probably good. If somebody's just like, fuck, I really don't know what to do against this. He's always owning me, always doing the same stuff. You should probably be doing that stuff as well. If it were so bad, you probably wouldn't be having difficulties with it. Of course, not always, That is not always true, but it's likely true. Napoleon complex, thanks, Monk. Not Napoleon syndrome. I know that was wrong. I knew that was wrong, but I couldn't come up with it. Thoughts on Iceman? Iceman 2710 from not from Russia. He's not from Russia actually, even though it says Russia. He's a fun guy. I met him once in Malta. We went out for steak and then for an alcohol shisha. That was the only time I've ever seen that. Yeah, I mean he's cool. He's a nice guy. He's a bit nutty for sure. Like I'm not gonna share him here, but I know some crazy Iceman stories. Like definitely some crazy Iceman stories. He's not as crazy as Dino Supremo, I would say, but he's definitely a bit crazy. He hasn't really shown up and played poker in a long time. I don't know if he's just playing live or just enjoying himself, but yeah, he's a cool guy. I asked him if he was a gypsy once. He really did not like that. If you know Iceman personally, you'll know why I asked that, but I can't say. Bill Perkins gave me 10K because I gave him 10K. Like I loaned it to him, and then he didn't pay me back. But it was not his mistake. It was just a funny miscommunication. When are you going to Vegas? Depends on the schedule. I think the last 2 years I went on the 18th of June, and then I'll stay until the end of the series. I'm definitely going again this year, so we'll see when. Turks and Caicos. Maybe Dennis. I haven't looked into that. I basically want to go somewhere sunny that is not insanely far, and also a place where I'm not gonna get murdered. So I don't want to go to Mexico or anywhere like that by myself with mediocre Spanish. When does the Bankroll Challenge start? Soon. That means not that long from now. At the same time, I don't have to be specific. All right, Dennis, thanks for the recommendation. Let's see. Why don't I play Limit anymore? I worked at it back in the day. I don't do it anymore because Super Poker left, and then I stopped, and like I don't really like it that much. It was just the game was good enough back then to play. I don't think I would be plus EV right now if I played, even though I would play fine. Edges in fixed limit are not small. Like the win rate is definitely lower than in no limit. Thoughts on Sin Karma? Solid player, but not top of the top. Sin Karma is the new Nick Howard for sure. This guy must be doing something right with all his vlogging or whatever, because I mean everybody asks about him. Where do you actually get to play 40K games? I assume you mean 40K hands. I just basically play 1020 on almost plus on almost every single side, and then I play a little bit of 500 zoom as well, or a bit of 510, and then I manage. Although the last few days have been ridiculous. Like there's been like no action at all. Like not even 5K. Like absolutely nothing, zero. So yeah, that's been quite ridiculous. There was this monster fish at 10K. It was not that so it sucks. So this is like how you should not look at it. So I basically played for like almost 2 weeks straight, like starting the first of the year, like almost played 2 weeks straight, no break. And then when that big fish showed up who lost 100K in like a few hours, that was the first morning I'd taken off all year. However, I played a lot. I play a lot every day, and of course I didn't know he was going to show up. So I would have had the lobby then, and I would have had that fish. So I basically got unlucky. But I should not be mad at myself because I played a lot. I was not feeling that well. Like I thought my game was a bit sloppy at the time, so I decided to take a day off. Like in retrospect, it was like a good decision. I just got ridiculously unlucky that the biggest fish I've seen in like the last 2 years just happened to show up like that day when I would have played and when I would have had the lobby. So yeah, just super unlucky. But what are you gonna do? If let's say I knew I was gonna play then, but then I went out drinking, I got drunk or whatever, and then I didn't play, then I would have been mad at myself because it was my poor performance that cost me so much EV. Whereas now it was just bad luck. So again, not trying to be results oriented, even though I'm a bit gutted, of course, that I didn't get to, didn't get to play. Yeah, I don't know why the mic is what's wrong. Like it's not like half unplugged or something, but I'll look into it for sure, Princess. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up now. Thanks for joining, guys, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. I'm actually gonna do a trip with my hometown friends starting tomorrow in Germany, so that's gonna be fun. So just be away from the computer for a few days. So probably that big fish is gonna show up. That would be hilarious. No, not really hilarious. All right, guys. Have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you soon. All right. See you.